Hello and welcome to the Cyberden, your weekly dose of tech and games. I, Jake, will be chatting with two wonderful gentlemen from the crazy company who brought you one of the most controversial video game series ever, Postal. Please welcome, we have CEO of Running with Scissors, Vince Desi.
I'm about to take this call. Nice to meet everybody.
Good timing, that.
Shutting that shit off. Shutting that off.
And we have Vice President of Business-Related Things, Mike Jaret.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having us on your little cyberden here.
The pleasure's all mine, guys. All right, then. Let's take it all the way back to the 90s. Let's talk about the company's origins. Was it true that before Running with Scissors was formed, and long before the gruesome Postal series was created, you guys were making kiddie games?
Well, I never really considered them kiddie games, but yes, in the very beginning, we actually started. Probably the most well-known title was on the Commodore 64, Spy vs. Spy, and then we also did the very first WWF game. Which was before there was a company called Acclaim. Before they got it, we actually did it. And then we've done lots of games for Children's Television Workshop, which is the parent company of Sesame Street. And then we did games for Disney and for Hanna-Barbera. People might know better, like the Jetsons, Fred Flintstone, stuff like that. And so we also... not all of those games were kiddie games. Some were, back then they had a term called edutainment, which is when you were trying to combine some educational value in an entertaining way. What we also actually did for Grolier, which is a big encyclopedia company, we did some straight up educational games, math, reading, history. So, yes, the majority of the work we did catered to children.
Now, let's get on to Postal. The first Postal game had players control of the mentally unstable Postal Dude, nice name, in order to gun down anyone they saw fit, be they civilians or just the people who shot you first. So, what were your intentions with this game?
Well, to begin... in the very first level, when the Postal Dude is introduced, it's not a definitive statement that he is insane, okay? Because the storyline goes that basically the police came, it was the old banking housing crisis, and so he was defending himself. It begins in a defensive nature. It is true that Postal 1 ends with the crazy asylum scenario. But that probably would occur to anybody if they killed as many people as you could kill in Postal 1 and make it to the last level. Unless you were some, maybe a terrorist type, but generally speaking, you could get through that game and kill 1,000 people. You probably need a little help at that point.
I especially like the atmosphere of the game, actually. I've got to definitely give big points of how creepy it was. For example, checking out the manual and the game's diary extracts. In the game, it's very kind of reveling in the madness and the chaos and the bloodshed. When you check the manual, then it's a completely different story. Kind of vulnerable, very shocked about what's going on.
Well, actually... what you read in the game on the cutscenes, that I took from my first grade diary. And it's funny that you're mentioning the sense of the game, the darkness, if you will. A lot of people that love the original Postal really do have a fondness for the darker nature, which, obviously Postal 2 was much more of a comedic type game, at least thematically. But in Postal 1, we were really blessed. We had an art director. His name is Randy Briley. Great guy, great talent. And his art style, even in the paintings he did, his own personal artwork really had that feel. And so when we were designing Postal 1, there were some on the team that wanted to make it, oh, well, it could be a postal worker and it was going to be a little more funny. And I was like, F that. I was like, that's BS. Back then we had games like, Doom was out, and I just wanted it to be very different. And I was very attracted. And perhaps because after 20 years of making kids games, it just seemed like it was so right to make a game that was a quick paced shooter and something that had a darker feel. So it was very much where I personally wanted to go, and we were blessed to have an art director, like I said, Randy Briley, great guy, great talent, and really he's the one that deserves the credit for setting that art style. Great guy, and as far as the text goes, I don't know, that stuff kind of just comes natural to me.
Just like to clarify, everyone, Vince is most definitely sane. In case anyone thinks that this is these crazy writings in Postal are the true machinations of his mind, don't worry. I'm pretty sure he's all right. Mike, can you back me up on this, please?
No.
No.
Okay, we got the proof already right there.
I think you were bringing up the manual. You brought up the postal guide, right?
I believe so, yeah. I remember.
The whole book that was about Postal 1, I believe that was written by Bill, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you're talking about the book, I mean, was it? You mean the manual to play? Like, back then, they used to have these. It was becoming more and more popular.
Strategy guide.
I don't remember the name of it. It was a player's guide. Is that what you're talking about?
Strategy guide. The strategy guide.
I believe so. I've seen like scans online, but I saw the notable difference with with Postal Redux. That's when I got introduced to Postal 1. And I saw that, playing it on normal mode, seeing, the really freaky diary descriptions. Then I thought, okay, let's play it in hard mode. Let's not kill any innocent people. Let's challenge myself. And then I thought it was suitable enough. The more afraid, kind of more worried writing style, which I thought, again, I really did like that kind of change to it. It really kept me hooked to see where it's going to go.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yep. So, how much flack did you actually get from the likes of the press and the US government for the first Postal game? I mean, you must have turned some heads with the final level being set in a school of all places.
Well, I'll try to be as concise as I can. The game comes out, and we were immediately attacked by the Postmaster General. That is the individual who is kind of like the CEO, if you will, of the post office for the United States, because we copyrighted the word postal. We registered it. And so we immediately started having a problem. Before the game came out, we were having a political problem. And then as we started to do more press releases and we went to some shows and the demo got out there, it just got crazier and crazier. But what happened was, when the game was being launched, Howard Stern, who was a well-known radio personality, we had booked through the publisher like 2 weeks of live read ads, which were pretty expensive, because a live read compared to, just breaking for commercial. And what happened was, whoever wrote the ad sheet, they were supposed to say Running with Scissors, and they didn't. They said Panasonic, because the publisher was Panasonic Interactive Media. Long story short, all hell broke loose, because now we had the federal government, we had the FBI, we had the post office, we had corporate America, and also something called the mainstream media completely going ballistic. And I don't even know if the word politically correct was popular 20 years ago, but I was a bit more combative in my personality back then. So I told them all where to shove it. And that basically set the tone for being blacklisted or banned in 12 countries or 14. I forgot. I know at one point it hit 14. but then we had a few come back. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, a lot of attention. Huge, as my Brexit friend Donald J would say. We had huge, huge feedback.
But do you take pride in it? Well, considering the fact you actually got it out into the shops and the fan base.
Actually, what happened was it was only on the shelves for 2 weeks. And then, because the mainstream media reaction was so negative, the larger retailers, they basically all pulled it. So it was only available in stores. It was just in the early stage of distribution. I mean, it hadn't even gotten to stores that were supposed to get it because the crisis occurred, if you will. So that's when, a long time ago, we actually started working with a company called Stream Theory. They were based out of Sweden. And it took 24 hours to download the game over the internet. So, but we found a way, and we continued. So it's the old story. If you don't give up, anything is possible.
I'm sure you still take some pride in knowing that getting banned in that many countries, surely wear it as a bit of a medal on your chest to boast to people with, really?
For me personally, it was much more traumatic. I didn't view it as a medal, anything, because I was growing my company. We had people that were young, getting married, starting to have kids. So to me, I looked at it, the financial challenge was great. We were hurt financially significantly because, look, the game was getting phenomenal reviews. The public was the interest was fantastic. People that got their hands on it loved it. But the truth is, most people couldn't buy it. So it really became an issue. So I never took pride, if you want, or a medal. Frig that. That's BS. Give me the money. Show me the money. Feed my children. You could take all that other. I've no concern.
I mean, let's be fair. We did run marketing ads later that were like, banned in 17 countries. I mean, at first it's like, give me my friggin' money. But then later on, you're like, well, it's going to stay banned. I might as well use it.
Look, you know what? Just because you're born in a hooer house doesn't make you a slut, okay? And like Mike was just saying, it is true. It is
does
something.
Make you a son of a whore, though.
I think that's called a bitch, right? Now,
son of a whore.
But the point is, it was not something we initially. Well, first of all, we didn't plan for it. We didn't initially embrace it, and it was really part of our survival, where it made sense to us. Okay, you can't fight everybody. I mean, we were fighting the gaming media, the mainstream media, politicians, law enforcement. So it just said, well, if this is what it is, then that's what it is. And so we began to just tell everybody, always being honest and just telling people, look, this is it.
Yeah. Oh, and you asked about the school setting. Tell them the story about the school, why that was.
Well, because see, I'm a big believer in anything goes. I don't, I live and let die. I'm down with that program. However, there are two things in my personal life that I'm not fond of. One is rape. I don't think rape is something. There's just no way to put a positive spin on rape. And the other is child abuse. I just look. I think there are times in life you might have to kill somebody. That's possible, but there's never. So as far as I'm concerned, execute all the child abuse people, the pedophile people, execute them, and same thing, rapists. There's no place in our society for rape, or in my life for rapists. So on those two notions, we put the last level in there as a schoolyard, because at the last level, when you see the schoolyard and you're thinking, oh my God, is this really a schoolyard? Like I fought my way through everything, including the Air Force Base, ostrich farms, downtown settings, suburbias, all occult mines. But what happens is you go to use a weapon and it jams. You switch another weapon and it jams. So we specifically designed it to show you this humble level of children playing. But
to be fair, it was a cinematic. It wasn't you controlling it.
Right. And the point is, none of your weapons work. Why? Because I would not allow that to occur. And then what happens? You're arrested and you're spun into the asylum mode. And so to me, that was the moral of the story. See, like, I'm okay with, if you're attacked and defending yourself, that's life. But I wanted to draw the line there. The problem is a little known paper called the Wall Street Journal decided to do an interview with me, and they asked me, I thought it was a good interview. I was really a rookie at doing interviews back then. It was just, I've always been willing to answer any question, and I answer honestly, but I didn't know how deceitful and corrupt that the fake media, which is what we call it today, I wouldn't call it fake media. I would just call it dishonest media. So when it came out, I was so proud, oh my God, I'm on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. How cool is that? And so I'm reading the story, and it begins with that we have this game. We designed this game to kill children, which is totally false. So I immediately call up the reporter, and I get him on the phone. And I said, look, basically in so many words, I said, look, a-hole, what's the deal? Like, you never even, why did you print this? This is 100% false. You didn't even ask me this question. And did you even play the game? To which he responded, no, I haven't played, but I talked to some friends, and they said there were kids in the game. To which I responded, look, jerk off, I'm in New York all the time. I'm going to come to your office and take your phone, beat your living crap out of you, and then shove it. So that took about an hour later, the FBI was in contact with me. So there you go. That's part of the story of the last level in Children.
We're about 18 minutes in, and these are already some of the greatest video game development stories I've ever heard in my whole entire life.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
All right, then. Now, let's move on to Postal 2. I mean, the first game and second game, of course, drastically different from dark and creepy to just darkly humorous and overtly offensive. Now, for those who haven't played it, A, you're missing out, please do play it. And number two, some of the things you can do is, for example, use cats as silencers for guns, you can go tinkling in Al-Qaeda's face, and then you can even set fire to the developers who star in the game as well. So why the change in tone?
Well, I think in one sense, there was almost, how many years later was it? I'm always a big fan of change. Just the same way we went from a three-quarter perspective view to a first-person view. I think it's fine. And we laughed, not everybody would appreciate this, but in Postal 1, while I enjoyed the dark artistic direction, I found setting the marching band on fire hysterical. Okay, and I can remember being at I think it was the second E3, and that was in Atlanta, and we had this big wall of like 20 monitors or something, and we had this contest playing. When that scene came up, everybody that was there, we had a tremendous crowd, hundreds of people, everybody was rolling. Well, I should say rolling. They were rolling on the floor laughing. They might have been rolling anyway, but I think that was 20 years ago. So the notion that we've gone from dark to light, from depression to humor, I kind of really feel it was a natural evolution, because I found Postal 1 to be funny. In Postal 2, we obviously went over the top. And we now, in this case, we purposely designed Postal 2 to be more of a slapstick, funny, stupid, you know, crazy, insane violence, throwing a hammer, shoving a hammer up a cow's rectum, sticking, the end of a gun up a cat's rectum. We have no anal issues, by the way. Okay. And of course, there's the urinating, there's the throwing up. It's fun. It's just funny. See, for me personally, Jake, I started many years ago playing games when it was the old original Atari 2600. And games then were much more simpler. And to me, I learned that, why do you play a game? You play a game because it's fun. You want to have fun. You play by yourself. You play with your friends. So I was never a big fan of the storytelling, role playing. It's not my style of game. So making a game that you could play and laugh at, I love that concept. One of the things I'm most proud of for Postal 2 is that you can watch somebody play. Like, you could be sitting in a chair next to your friend, smoking anything you want to be doing, and watching somebody, kicking a door down, chopping somebody's head off with that clang, that shovel sound. That's my favorite sound, by the way. You laugh. So this is comical. I mean, this is now. Of course, somebody might say, that's demented." Well, look, to each his own. That's how I look at it.
I especially liked Mike J's inclusion as some sort of gigantic 10-foot zombie cow Tourette monster thing.
10 foot?
20, 30. Either.
You don't know feet. Fucking Brit.
Shut up.
Watch that.
10 meters.
Close enough. Hey, I'm probably taller than you anyway, Mike.
Definitely. But you probably weigh less than me. You look like a rail. You look like you eat vegetables only.
Hey, I shift trolleys for a living, mate.
I don't even know what that means, and it sounds ridiculous.
I shift shopping carts for a living, friend.
Oh, like you push them in the parking lot.
I do that for 7 hours a day, so I think I can...
No, I know. People do that here at Costco, and they end up in really good shape.
Yeah.
So you're probably stronger than me. I don't want to wrestle you. I'm really not into getting oiled up.
Yeah.
I'm against it. I'm just not into it.
That's more of a Thursday thing for me, but not today.
Not on a Tuesday.
So was that idea of you becoming this gigantic abomination, was that your idea, Mike?
No, actually, we had an artist named Josh, and he just developed this really awesome giant cow boss thing. And I don't know, he put my face on it, and it fit perfectly because I don't know. I guess I used to look like a big cow. So I took it and I ran with it, and it had a very small. Well, it was the end boss. I guess it's not a small part, but it didn't have a lot to say in Apocalypse Weekend. You have later questions where we made an add-on for Postal 2 where it actually got a lot of lines. So that was my big debut, was in Paradise Lost. So, but yeah, no, I love that character. The poster that came with the game actually had a really nice rendering of the cow boss, and it had a little picture of me in kindergarten, and it said, "He was such a nice, quiet boy before the apocalypse."
That's right.
And that was the poster that came with the game. So that was really cool to me. I mean, I don't know. I'd maybe been with the company 3 years at that point, and all of a sudden I'm on the poster as a 5-year-old. So
it was
there
a
you
great
go.
picture of him.
We do put kids in our games, but only me and a picture of me when I was 5. So whatever gets our fans' jollies off.
Well, we also put Gary Coleman in the game.
Yeah, we put a oversized small black child in the game. No, we loved Gary. He's
Gary was great.
Rest in peace, boy. He did get murdered, but he did great work for us, and we had a lot of fun with him. So
yeah, it's a shame. I think Jay is right. I think he was killed by it wasn't even his wife. She just was pretending it was that she was married.
Yeah, they were on the divorce court. One day I had a TV in my office back in the day, and I would just flip through random daytime TV, and I happened to turn on Divorce Court, and the star of our game was on it. We didn't know he was going to be on it, and I see him on Divorce Court with this ugly ginger bitch, and they're arguing about whether they consummated the marriage or not. And the judge was like, I need you to answer this question for me, Mr. Coleman. Did you ever consummate the marriage? This is very important because you want to get out of this marriage without any problems. I can only annul it if you will admit that you did not. And he was just like, I'm not going to answer that question. That's none of your business. That's not. He died a virgin, just so you know. So he obviously didn't. He was like a self-proclaimed virgin, but he wouldn't say in court whether he frigged her or not. You know, it was a random day at the office. I brought everybody in so we could watch our stupid little celebrity on Divorce Court. So, yeah.
That must have been a landmark moment for the company then.
Well, it would have been landmark if he said I was too busy making Postal 2 to boink my wife. But instead, he's not the marketing genius that everybody thinks he is. Hell, he wouldn't even say what you talking about, a-hole. When we took him in for recording. There's a story for you. We got Gary Coleman for Postal 2. Part of him agreeing to the deal, part of us offering him the money was so that he would say, what you talking about, a-hole. It was his line, and he knew that, and that's what he was paid for. And then we get him into the studio, and he sees the line, and he will not record it. And he's like, I told you I wasn't going to record this. And we're like, no, you absolutely did not. And he goes, well, it was my New Year's resolution that I refused to make any more money off that stupid line, my past. And to be fair, it is a bad part of his past because his parents did screw him over a lot of money. But it's all he's worth. I mean, no offense to the guy. He's a nice kid. He was a nice kid, but he wasn't worth any more than the show he was on when he was a little kid. So him not saying it, he has no inherent value. And I said, fine, what will you say? And he said, I'll say, what are you talking about, a-hole? And I was like, okay, cool. Well, we have another line where you say, don't you know who I am? And we're just going to merge those and fake it. And he's like, that's fine. So he recorded those, and then our audio guy mixed them, which wasn't a problem. And I don't know, a year passes, maybe more, and I get a phone call. Hey, what's up, Gary? And he's screaming at me over the phone. And I'm like, what is wrong? And he goes, I finally installed Postal 2, and I get to my part in the game, and there's me saying, what you talking about, a-hole? And I was like, yep. That's right. And he goes, I told you I wasn't going to record that. I'm like, you didn't record that. He's like, well, where'd you get it? I was like, well, we had our audio guy combine 2 of your lines. And he goes, I didn't say you could do that. Well, you did say we could do it. And he goes, well, I didn't think you'd really do it. I was like, all right, Gary, well, is there anything else I can help you with? No. And yeah, that was a bad phone call with Gary. But,
gosh.
You know, I think we brought him to a new generation because, you know, there's a younger generation of kids, myself included. I'm actually not really old enough to have watched his show. I did know who he was, but then, you know, there's a whole generation that's 10, 15, even nowadays 20 years younger than me that are getting introduced to Gary Coleman. And, you know, I realize it's posthumous, but like he's living on in our game. So it's pretty cool.
Not long ago, the company released an expansion pack for Postal 2, Paradise Lost. For those who don't know, over 10 years after Postal 2 was released. Mm-hmm. Considering what happened with Postal 3, long story short, I'm sure you guys have talked about it enough. So Postal 3, in other words, kind of sucked, and the developers aren't happy. You know, some Russian blokes helped, and
it doesn't exist. Just say it doesn't exist. Postal 3 doesn't exist.
It didn't exist. It was a bad dream.
Yeah, if you really want to play it, which you shouldn't, just hit me up and I'll find a way for you to play it. I'll lead you to a torrent so you can download it or something.
He'll lead you into a dark alley and then...
I'll follow you back to your car and find a way to get you Postal 3.
A fate worse than death, I've heard.
Yeah, no, Postal 3 sucked. We will not go into it at length at all, just to say it was a product of the economic crisis of the world. I'm not going to say it would have been some AAA amazing title if that didn't happen, but it definitely affected Postal 3 in a really negative way. It destroyed the Russian game development industry for a while, and that was stuck right in the middle of it. So that is that. And what happened with
bad dump?
Yeah, have you ever taken a bad shit? Like you just can't get that last little piece out? That's what Postal 3 was. It was that last little piece. They finally got it out. But, you know, maybe a year or two after Postal 3 came out, we we got all of our old games onto Steam, and that was a long running gag for us because I was friends with the Valve guys. We'd used their engine for Postal 3, whatever you want to talk about that shit again, and they just wouldn't put our games on Steam, and for obvious reasons, they weren't as open as they are now. They had a relatively closed system, and Postal and our marketing just didn't fit into their process. And it was me constantly asking their guys year in and year out, can we please get our games on your system? Digital distribution is our only friend. Please help us out. And it was always like, nah, you're marketing. And then they launched a service called Project Greenlight, which allowed independent developers to put their games up. And we put it up there, and it was like a instant, automatic, top of the list game. Like, people voted for our game in droves. So we made it onto Steam because the fans wanted it, which is, the way how anything should be. And it did very well, like much better than we could have expected. And we were trying to figure out what we could do to say thank you to all these people that bought our game. And really, we just had a lot of... we operate at Running Scissors like it's a club. So we have a lot of people that work with us or do things with us, on project basis, or they come in for one little thing. And we had a lot of people that had been helping out in the mod community for Postal 2 for a long time. Obviously, it had been, 11 and a half, almost 12 years at that point. And we thought, well, we've got all these people that know what they're doing with the engine, which is, at this point, is actually hard to find. It's hard to find someone that knows what they're doing with a botched pre-Unreal 2 version of the engine. It wasn't even Unreal 2. That was a build that was 2 or 3 major builds before the final shipping of Unreal 2. But we had this team that knew what they were doing with it, and we figured, you know what? We didn't like Postal 3. We want to correct that mistake. We sold a ton of copies of Postal 2 on Steam to all these people, these new fans. What can we give them? And the answer was, let's just modify it ourselves. Let's make another add-on because, quite frankly, Apocalypse Weekend was truly not what we had wanted it to be either. That game got cut short, and we had to turn it into this, almost a hallway shooter. It was very linear versus Postal 2, which was open world, and it just didn't have our signature gameplay that we liked from Postal 2. So we decided to basically take the world of Postal 2 and, tell the story of where it would be today. So we fast forwarded 12 years, and we, used the excuse that the dude was in a bad car accident and he was in a coma, and he dreamed up Postal 3 like a bad nightmare, dirty shit. And he wakes up and he doesn't know where he is, and he can't find his dog, and he ends up right back in the same place he was for Postal 2, except it's a little bit more like Bartertown, like a nuke had been exploded, and whatever lived there was living. So that's really why we did it, and how we got to that story. So.
Must have been
quite I guess your question was, did we come across a lot of challenges? Obviously, yes. The modified Unreal 2 was very hard to work with. That doesn't mean we didn't know what we were doing, but some specific parts of that take a really long time to work with, mainly, doing cutscene work. It takes forever back then, and the development process was a lot more than we expected, but it came out better than we expected it would, and it's actually done very well. Not to mention, all of our games have very high user review scores on Steam. Postal 2 actually is above a 95% with over 20,000 reviews right now. But Paradise Lost has something like a 97% user review score, which is the second highest user reviewed DLC on Steam. So there you go, a little self-jerk right there.
We were talking earlier, of course, about politics and video games, the press, etc. 2015 and 2016 in particular were pretty horrific for gaming in ways, what with, censorship, forced political correctness in gaming, poor ethics in video game journalism, and some other nasty stuff. What were your thoughts on these events?
Like the whole social justice warrior craze?
Yeah, kind of stuff like that.
Gamergate.
I don't pay much attention to it. I think it's, I love the internet, but I think one of the things that's happened is the same way you give somebody a microphone and all of a sudden they actually think they have an audience, okay? Or worse, they think their opinion is more important than yours or Mike's or mine. So my feeling, I get back to the whole, I live and let die. So I'm not going to get consumed with social justice anything or politically correct anything. I told you where I stand. I believe in, look, you know what? You wake up in the morning, you know, do something good with your life, help people that legitimately need it, and be a happy person, live a happy life. I don't have the time to. When I see on the internet sometimes, I don't spend as much time, but the endless opinionating of people that, and they think they're somehow, they have this connection to God, like from God's lips to their mouth. Insanity. So I have zero interest, zero value. Play games, take good care of your children, be good to your family and friends. That's it.
That said, let's talk about the press part of this for a second. Gamergate started with, the journalism issue, which was nothing new to us because we've been making a game for a long time that, well, sure, plenty of people hate it, and I have no problem with the people that hate it. What I have a problem with is people that rip on it that haven't really played it or required advertising money to give you a better score or had to lower our score because they weren't allowed to support a game like ours. That was nothing new for us. So all of a sudden when this collusion in journalism or pay-to-play came out, it wasn't news to us. It wasn't like we were like, what's going on? Let me contact my local representative. It was like, you're damn right this is the way it works. It's no different than anything else, and we've been seeing it for a long time. Hell, we got a 0 out of 100, well, a 0 out of 10, whatever the score was from Computer Gaming World. We were the first game to ever get a 0, which is fine, and we literally wear it as a badge of honor. But the guy that wrote the review, who I happen to be friends with, he didn't play the game, and he shouldn't have been the writer to write that review. He was given the game, and he was the guy that normally reviewed RTSs. And then he writes this basically social diatribe about how he doesn't like games that act like this. And it's like, all right, cool, that's fine. You don't have to like those games, but someone that at least appreciates those games should be writing the review. Well, we got a 0 from them. We got 100 from another outlet, which is also equally insane because I know our game wasn't a 90, let alone 100. So we submitted it to the Guinness records, and we received a Guinness record for the most divisively reviewed game in history because nobody's ever gotten a 0 and a 100. Plenty of games getting 0s these days. Nobody's getting a 0 and a 100. So we got that, which, to go back to the pay-to-play, the Guinness record is also pay-to-play because we were awarded the Guinness record very, very, very slowly. I mean, it took like 6 months to get us this score, and we were on their asses about this, and they were like, well, you can get your submission reviewed faster if you pay for it. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay for this. So then they give us this Guinness record. They send it to us in an email, and then they tell us you can talk about it, but you can't use our logo or this, that, and the other thing unless you pay for them. So we can tell you we got it, and it's not in their website anymore, so I can't prove it to you with anything more than an email from them. But we did get it. So, yes, for years we were always told, oh, you want to have a big review in this magazine, you got to pay for cover space, or you got to put X amount of ad dollars into the magazine. And we're like, no. So this is nothing new. I mean, it's fine. We live in that space, which is why we overtly appreciate the way social gaming has come. A system like Steam where people buy games based on what they see the user review score is. And like I said, somehow Postal 2 has what's called overwhelmingly positive on Steam, which means you have a 95% or greater. We are in that category. And if you look through the pages of user review scores for various games, like if you pull all the games up and you try to put them by the score, most of the games that are above a 95% are Valve's own games, Counter-Strike and Half-Life 2 and things like that. So we kind of stand alone. And it's funny when I read all the reviews, I read the haters, I read the people that love us. And sometimes the haters just cannot understand why we have a 95% or greater. And for a while, I couldn't believe it either because, look, like I said, I'm well aware of the type of game we make. I'm well aware of the quality of game we make. And while I think we do a good job with what we have and we're funny, we do not make a AAA title that is, I don't expect a 9 out of 10 from anywhere. But when the fans appreciate it, it's because we are in constant communication with them. We keep them updated on a lot of things. We talk to them. We respond to their emails. We correct orders when they're screwed up on our website. If somebody absolutely hates my game, I will refund them for it. Like, we do a lot of things that other developers don't do. So even the people that might not like us, or they put up a negative review, the fact that we're willing to do something about it, or talk to them, or help them out, that changes their mind sometimes. And they'll say, well, I didn't love the game, but I really love the company. And sometimes that's more than, it's worth more to me than any press. It's nice to have a meta score of 85 plus. That'd be great, but that's not us. We know that's not going to happen. So we'd rather live in the user review space.
Now, back in the summer of 2015, Hatred was released, and for those who don't know, again, it was supposed to be a kind of a spiritual remake of the original Postal top-down shooter, except the big change here is players must kill civilians to win. It's not optional. You have to gun them down. And of course, naturally, as a result, lots of negativity from the press, a fair bit of praise from some of the, a handful of the players, etc. What were your thoughts on it?
Go for it, Vin.
Personally, I was very honored to see that a company would use what we did almost 20 years ago as their inspiration. What do they say? Imitation's the greatest form of flattery. Having said that, it's not really for me to like or dislike or judge or not. I'm a big believer in they made it. They have every right to make it. They should be able to sell it. And I just don't believe in censorship in any way. I think it was interesting how from the get-go they took the position that we want to be, what was it? Not even M-rated. We wanted an AO
Yeah, they didn't
rating.
go for the M. They went for the AO.
So it's just funny to me how life becomes the inspiration for art. Then art became the inspiration for a revisionist version of art. And it's a 360. So I have a great appreciation for it. And they're really good guys. They work hard at what they do. I was glad to see that for all the negative press they got at the time, they were still able to survive that press and make a go of it. And it was really kind of, the way I see it was, I don't know, they did something probably once in a lifetime effort on their part, and they went for it, they did it, and it worked. So it's all good. It's all good.
Let me chime in here. The one thing that I have to say is, I'll get back to the user review scores and listening to the fans. When Hatred was first announced, it really did receive a shitstorm. And I mean, it actually took me back. When I watched the trailer, I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I mean, look, we're the Postal guys, and I personally wasn't around the office for Postal 1. I started at the end of 2001, so Postal 1 was long out. I had played the game a lot. I was a fan. I used to come to the office all the time, so it was something I was used to. But in my mind, that's not even what Postal was, because, it was these tiny little weird-looking characters, and it had a comedic look to it, whereas Hatred didn't have a comedic look, and it had a very brash overtone with voiceover work that straight up gave it the, we are a murder simulator game. We are a mass shooting simulator. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Like I just said, the first time I saw the trailer, it just took me back a little bit. Then Valve announced they weren't going to carry it on Steam, which really pissed me off. And what went the opposite way was Valve got so much hate mail about that they actually ended up backtracking and allowing the game on Steam, which I thought was great because, look, just because a game, I'm not saying the game is or isn't for me. I did play it. I did enjoy it. But when people want something, they need to be able to get it, and they're going to get it no matter what. And I'm just glad Valve allowed them to do that. I mean, it was similar with us when we put our first Postal games up on Greenlight. They got pulled down, and we weren't sure why. We thought, oh, great, it's the old Valve getting us off their servers game again. But it wasn't that. They just didn't think it was us submitting it, and after a second submission, they allowed it. Whereas with Hatred, yeah, they were going to carry it, and then all of a sudden they were like, whoa, we saw the trailer. We're not going to deal with that. And I'm just glad they backtracked. And Destructive is friends of ours. We do, mutual marketing with each other, and they clearly loved what we made, and we like what they do. And we're in constant communication with them, so they are friends of ours, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'll give credit to the definitely the marketing pre-release. I'll definitely give credit because that took me away, and I've got a pretty strong stomach myself. After seeing that, I thought, geez, they are going way far on this, and I'm hooked. I really want to give it a try. I mean, admittedly, personally, I didn't enjoy it too much. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's kind of losing its focus, and yeah, it was just kind of when I actually got to the meat and bone of it, and there wasn't a lot of meat and bone. Is what I felt.
No, it looked but you know what? It looked good. It did really.
True. It
was
definitely
dark, but
dark and gritty, and then again, a lot of times when me and my flatmates, back when it was released, when we were playing it, taking turns with it, a lot of us were kind of making jokes about, my name is not important kind of guy, and a lot of us were yelling, crawling in my skin! And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You should have said his name was the Hatred Dude.
The Hatred Dude. I'm going to go on a killing spree because no one invites me to my party and they're all losers and I am cool. Yeah, we made a lot of kind of emo jokes about that.
We all knew that guy, so.
Yeah. There's always at least one. But like I say, full respect to the guys who made it, the twisted guys there. But, full respect to them, and like I say, great job at least with the marketing and the tone of it. I'll give it points there.
So, one thumbs up for Poland.
So, let's talk about now the future. What are future plans for Running with Scissors? Have you got any other projects in development you're allowed to hint about?
Sure. Mike, why don't you address Jake's question?
All right. Well, just so everybody's very clear, it is now 2017, which makes it the 20th anniversary of the Postal series. It came out in 1997, and it's 2017. So happy anniversary to us. Happy 20th anniversary to us. And yeah, we are going to do something for that. But our main focus right now is actually something else. And there's not much for me to say other than we are working in VR and we're loving it. So yeah, that's our future our future plans right now. Is right now we're not working on Postal. There will be another Postal game at some point. We just have to do it. I mean, it's what got us here. It's still very popular, but we just need a break from it. And we're finally doing our own second unique IP outside of Postal. So that's what we're doing. And there's really no details right now other than there's some VR.
And well, if you ever need voice acting for these for this new game you're working on, I know this wonderful guy. I think he's called Jake, and he has a radio show as well. I'm sure he'd gladly be up for any particular roles.
He sounds terrible.
Oh, well, that sucks.
I'm sure I'll have a role for some limey in this game.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to name the lead character. Maybe Jake.
Jake's such a boring name, though.
Oh,
the Voice, on the other hand.
Yeah, Jake the Voice is my full proper name.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
I remember an old teacher who taught me food technology when I was about 16. He said that my name, Jake the Voice, Jake Parr. He said it had a ring to it, like Hitler, Stalin, Obama, Jake Parr. Jake the Voice.
That is good. You can slam a table while saying it. Jake Parr.
Jake the Voice, Jake the Voice. And I'm sure the voice works alongside as well. So who knows? I could be the next great dictator.
Maybe you have a future in radio.
Funny enough, I did actually get the boot from a local radio station here because simply put, they just didn't want me. I'm kind of glad, though. I'm kind of glad that there's, compared to, lovely stations like Siren FM, been here for over 3 years, a lot of creative freedom with what we can cover on the airwaves, the interviews, etc. Some of the dopey, goofy discussion. It's kind of like with your case, for example, running with scissors compared to other more AAA companies. The AAA company is like, oh, well, DLC, and we've got to keep to conventions. Let's make John Default, bold man with assault rifle, where with running with scissors, like, okay, let's just make the postal dude. He goes around tinkling in people's faces. Let's make him fight Al-Qaeda with a scythe. It's kind of like that, really.
Well, that's radio, man. I do a radio show in Tucson, too. I do a tech talk radio show. So.
Cool. Maybe we should collab somehow.
Sure. We can talk about Apple products.
To be honest, talking about Apple is something I avoid entirely.
See, and that's exclusively what I talk about. So.
Really? It's boring as hell for me. I just focus it, even though the tagline is supposed to be your weekly dose of tech and games, it's predominantly focusing on games than, making stupid comments and jokes around
But I don't play video games. How can I talk about them?
Well, you just... Get out. Just leave. So, interview over.
I've got a PS4. I don't know when I turned it on last, but I do have one.
Close enough for me. Continuing the interview.
There you go.
All right. So, before we round off this interview, is there anything you'd like to say to your many deranged, crazy, but dedicated Postal fans out there?
For myself, as Mike just mentioned, it is 2017, and I want to just say thank you and congratulations to everyone that's ever played any Postal game. That is probably the thing I am most proud of, is the relationship we have with our fans, is the fans themselves. They are tremendous. We would not be sitting here having this interview with you, Jake, and being able to speak to your audience. It's a hell of a accomplishment to have a game and to have it grown and evolved into a 20-year living history. Some would say legacy, some would say insanity, but the bottom line is we've brought fun, smiles, laughter, and occasionally solved even depression. So for me,
cured it. It's gone. It's over.
It's thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, I've been doing this since I was 20 years old, and I can't believe we're still doing it. Quite frankly, I said this 2 years ago when we released Paradise Lost, which was, if you would have told me when I was 20 that I would be releasing another game for this same product when I'm in my mid-30s, I would laugh at you, but it's funny, and I can't believe people are still playing it, and I just want to thank everybody that's done that, and fuck everyone that hates it, but I'm glad you still played it all the same. And yeah, thanks for keeping us well-fed and for paying for all the prostitutes.
Vince, Mike, thank you so much for coming to this interview.
Yeah, man.
Jake, really appreciate the effort. Thank you so much. I wish you and your family and your entire audience a super 17.
Yeah, man. Have a good
year. And stay tuned, because we are running with scissors.
And
all right, man.
I would also like to thank my lovely listeners out there for tuning into this great interview on The Cyber Den, your weekly dose of tech and games. See you guys, and let me just say, to quote the Postal Dude, I regret nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.